Welcome back to Final Expense Telesales. My name is Dana Neeson, and we are on lesson 5 in our 10-part sales series of Mastering the Sales Process. And today we are focusing on underwriting. Now, underwriting when you are with a captive agency is really easy. You usually have 10 questions. It's either this direction or declined, and there's really no other option, which makes working for one carrier very, very simple for a brand new agent. However, in the broker world, we are working with 5 carriers, 10 carriers, 20 carriers. Underwriting is really important, especially when it comes to placement rate. We're going to talk about all the questions you should be asking, all the questions you shouldn't be asking, so that you can have a more successful experience in underwriting with your clients. Do not exhaust them, put them with the right carrier, and make that transition to the application much easier. If you are just now finding this channel, welcome and thank you for being here. Again, my name is Dana. I'm the owner of Empower Life Group. We are a remote, simplified issue life insurance agency specializing in final expense. Our agents do also sell mortgage protection, IULs, all sorts of life insurance, but we focus here on simplified issue life. My job is to try to help you have stronger, more sophisticated sales conversations. And if you enjoy the content that I am putting out, please do me a favor, give this video a like, post a comment to let me know what you've learned and that you're here. And let's get right into it. All right, so what we're looking at here is a one-page cheat sheet that we use for health questions and underwriting. We typically start with, nicotine, height, and weight. We go into some of the most common health questions that the majority of the carriers ask and care about. Are you diagnosed with diabetes? We want to basically not really know if we don't care if they're diagnosed with diabetes. What we care about is if they're diagnosed with diabetes and if they've had complications from diabetes. We also want to make sure that we understand that insulin versus metformin are considered 2 different categories of risk for some of these carriers. And so if you are using a tool like toolkits, as we see here, probably getting with your upline or with your agency to learn how to use toolkits to your advantage will help you a lot in identifying what carrier your client should be placed at based on the health conditions you've put in and the medications that they take. Now, we're not going to go into a deep dive into toolkits for this training today, because that is a slippery slope. Toolkits is only as good as the information you feed it, but you can also run into the weeds badly by answering all of the follow-up questions that it asks based on the health condition and the medication that they're taking. Not everything is relevant, and there are big things that are relevant that could throw your application into the wrong path. So start with health questions that you always go to and don't skip any, right? Do they have any history of heart attacks, strokes, seizures, cancer? These are big health conditions that we want to make sure we understand. Any heart conditions like AFib, congestive heart failure, cardiomyopathy, stents, how long ago did they put them in? Are they taking any medications for any of these health conditions? How many medications are you taking for these health conditions? Any lung diseases like COPD or emphysema? Do you take any oxygen or inhalers? Because there's a big difference between albuterol or a Trilogy Ellipta, right? They're looked at very differently in underwriting. Mental health conditions are something we have to ask about. Any bipolar or schizophrenia? Any kidney or liver problems like cirrhosis or hepatitis? Any dementia, Alzheimer's, or treatments for any memory loss that you can remember? Any AIDS, HIV, ARC, or any alcohol or drug abuse? Any hospitalizations in the last 2 years? Do you use a wheelchair or any major assistance or help to get around, right? ADLs are really, really important in figuring out what people can qualify for. Are you currently taking any medications for high blood pressure or cholesterol? Are you currently taking any prescribed medications? Are you currently prescribed any medications that you are not actually taking? That's a big one that most agents fail to ask because they only put in the medications that they're taking, but they have a whole arsenal of medications that they've been prescribed that they just don't take for one reason or another. We also want to know if there's been any felonies in their past. So these are a good bulk of health questions that if you get the answers to the majority of them, you should be pretty set. All right, so we're going to do a quick little example on toolkits for you on how you could get into the weeds and kind of a good overview of what a thorough walkthrough of the information you need to put in toolkits is. Again, this isn't going to be a deep dive. It's going to be a surface level look. If you don't have toolkits, please do yourself a favor, pay for it. It's like $35 a month. So I'm going to put in the birth date. Let's just do 0202 1955. We'll do a height and weight of 6 feet, 200 pounds. We'll say no nicotine use. We'll look for options for a $15,000 policy in the state of Texas. And we'll put in diabetes, no complications. We'll put in insulin, not metformin. And we'll say diabetes with no complications. And this is kind of where I'm leaving the additional questions in toolkits. As you can see, you could very easily get into the weeds hitting next on these two buttons, which are totally unnecessary in this example. If someone has no complications from diabetes, then I don't need to know their diagnosis. I've already put in that they take insulin, so I don't really need to hit yes there. I don't need to put the age that they started it, which let's just say they started it at age 61. How many units they take per day. I mean, you could get so sucked into an unnecessary, lengthy underwriting discussion for things that don't matter. So do yourself a favor, work with your upline and make sure that you have a really good understanding of what's necessary and not so necessary so you can be an expert, but not go so deep to where you would completely exhaust your clients. I just wanted to interrupt this video really quick to say that the reason all of those sub questions are there is because it's built into toolkits for policies that are fully underwritten or that maybe require those types of health questions for different types of policies. So please know that I am teaching this to agents who are primarily writing final expense life insurance, simplified issue life policies, not something that's fully underwritten or requires those additional health questions to be answered. All right, let's also put in high blood pressure, controlled. We'll put in, how about congestive heart failure? All right, and as far as medications go, why don't we put in losartan? And we're going to take that for high blood pressure. And again, I'm not going to hit next on all of these. And let's put in AFib. Now, what's really cool about toolkits is for health, like you can put in health conditions such as hospitalization. You can, and hospice. You can put in health conditions like ADLs, activities of daily living. So make sure that you understand how much information you can put in, and it's not limited to specific diagnoses or specific medications. All right, so we're just going to leave it like this. And I'm going to hit get quote here at the bottom. And it's going to bring up all the different options that I have available. And it's going to give me the options that I don't have available. And it will tell me why they're not available. So make sure that you have enough information to where that you have the most probable options for quoting your clients, but that you don't put in too much to where it really doesn't move the needle, but you've wasted a lot of time and therefore reduced the emotional urgency to want to buy a policy because we're so focused on spelling out medications and not enough time reminding them of why they're doing this in the first place. So once you pull up your list of options, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is is saying, well, we have Transamerica, I have Sika, I have Gerber, I have Guaranteed Trust Life, I have Combined and Corebridge and SBLI and like all these. Don't confuse them. Be again the expert that says, based on everything you've shared with me, my recommendation is going to be with a carrier called Transamerica in this example. Have you ever heard of them before? Now, my script has a description of every single carrier that the agents have contracts with, the majority of them, so that they can, again, be very quick to the punch and say something like Transamerica right here. Well, Transamerica is a 120-year-old company with over 10 million customers and an A rating on the AM Best, which is how life insurance carriers are rated. This means they pay their claims. They also have a built-in funeral concierge service that will work with your family when you pass to help them submit the claim and get them paid within 48 hours. Do you like the idea of that? Now, do you already have a will, right? Et cetera, et cetera. You understand where I'm going with that. I am not going to be the opposite, which is just diarrhea, vomit of the mouth of all the different carriers that I see. I'm going to make one recommendation with one carrier, give them the description of that carrier, and then on the next video, we're going to go over how I am going to quote them. Specifically, do I use the 3-quote option? Do I use a 1-quote option? You're going to see exactly how I quote people and transition them into an application. But as far as underwriting goes, you should be at from hello to health questions in about 10 to 15 minutes. And from health questions to quotes, that should take an additional 5 to 10 minutes max. I mean, 10 minutes is kind of pushing it unless you have someone that's like, let me go get all of my medications and they just read them to you because that's just what they do. You should be so good at understanding the broad spectrum of underwriting that you just get the high level stuff. You dive deep into some of the low level stuff for something that maybe you don't understand or sounds scary or intimidating. But if you're spending 20 minutes in underwriting, you have a less likely chance of getting the sale and writing it that day. In fact, you have a higher chance of them saying, I want to think about it because now they're tired, right? You've worn them out. You don't really sound like an expert anymore because you probably also have a lot of time where you're not saying anything because you're so focused on understanding the medications and the health conditions and all the follow-up questions and stressing out about what carrier do you place them with, right? If all of that sounds true to you, post in the comments and let me know. Now, I also posted a video a few months ago, and I will link it here in the description of this video. I did a video on Underwriting 101 and the most common health conditions and corresponding medications, so you could start to speak the lingo. This was a downloadable form on the video that I did at the time. So if you're unfamiliar with things that are prescribed for AFib, well, we have right here. Are you taking any beta blockers like atenolol or metoprolol? Right? That makes you sound like an expert. How about any calcium channel blockers, right? Like veramipil. I don't even know how to say that one. But these are things that you should definitely start getting familiar with so that when people say, oh yeah, I'm on kidney dialysis, but I don't know what medication I take for that, you could just come right here and say, oh, well, the most common one is erythropoietin, right? Is that how you say it? I mean, if you were to come up here back to toolkits and put kidney disease, kidney dialysis, maybe stage 3, or there we go, then you won't even really need the medication specifically because the health condition is already in there for dialysis. Now, this isn't a perfect be all end all for the underwriting section, but if you have no experience or if you're very confused or intimidated by the underwriting section, just have a list of questions that you always ask. Put the information directly in toolkits. Do not write it down, right? Did you hear that? Don't write it down and then transfer it to toolkits. You need to be fluent to get the information and pop it right into toolkits as you're getting it to, again, not artificially lengthen the time that you spend in this section. If you found value to the underwriting section here, let me know. And it looks like part 6, we will be talking about quoting. Quoting is super important. We have to make sure that we're quoting people what they need, not what they called in for or what they think they want. Again, my name is Dana. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.